We've spent the last 8 weeks talking about identity in both the masculine and feminine forms. We covered ancient Hebrew, Jungian psychology, family systems, the manosphere, the Ezer, the Zakar. We defined the shadow and the design. And man, we got messages. We got emails, we got DMs, some of them that were long. We got people sharing things that they've never said out loud about themselves, about their lives. And some people had pushback, real, fair pushback.
I genuinely get it, because some people heard us talking about feminine identity, and their first reaction was, who do these guys think they are?
One woman said, I've been told my whole life that I'm too much, and you just told me I was built this way. Thank you for that.
We got a lot of honest feedback from people who felt like this series wasn't for them.
It went something like, hey man, isn't this just complementarianism with better branding?
This one's going to feel a little different for our listeners, for our viewers, but I think in a real sense, it might be one of the most important episodes of the whole series.
We're not going to be teaching any new concepts today. We're going to be in the room with you. Hopefully, we're going to be answering questions that you were actually asking. Every person who's ever felt stuck in their career, their leadership, or their life has one thing in common.
They're one breakthrough away from changing everything.
Welcome to the Breakthrough Bros podcast. I'm Jeremy Flagg.
And hey, I'm Henry Ballard. Between the two of us, we've spent decades coaching individuals and helping leaders navigate mindset shifts that create real, lasting change.
Each episode, we bring you practical conversations designed to sharpen your thinking, strengthen your leadership, and help you move forward with clarity and confidence.
Because sometimes the biggest thing standing between you and your next level
is simply a breakthrough in how you think. Welcome back, everybody, to the Breakthrough Bros podcast. We're so happy that you decided to join us today on this last week of June. Can you believe it, Henry? June's already over. 2026 is moving too fast, man.
And we're halfway through. I'm ready for the second half.
Yeah, that's right, man. Gearing up for the second half. Well, if you've been tracking with us, we've spent the last 8 weeks talking about identity in both the masculine and feminine forms. 4 episodes on women in May, 4 episodes on men in June. Ancient Hebrew, we covered ancient Hebrew, Jungian psychology, family systems, the manosphere, the Ezer, the Zakar. We defined the shadow and the design. Man, we went lots of places together that honestly I wasn't sure we were going to go when we started this thing.
Yeah, we did. I have a journal to prove it that I took notes. But man, I remember when you first brought this to me, and it was eye-opening. It was enlightening. You know, the she was built for this series. 2 guys, that part in and of itself. 2 guys talking about feminine identity. And I'll be real. I had reservations. I had questions, but man, we plowed through it.
I can verify, everybody. He had lots of questions. And honestly, so did our audience. Right. And that's the key to today's episode, because today is the response to the series that we just went through in May and June. These 2 series have been unlike anything we've ever done on the show. And man, we got messages. We got emails. We got DMs, some of them that were long. We got people sharing things that they've never said out loud about themselves, about their lives. And some people had pushback. Real, fair pushback, and we'll address some of that today. And it deserves a direct response. So we're going to be doing that today. We're not going to be teaching any new concepts today. We're going to be in the room with you. Hopefully, we're going to be answering questions that you have as well, that you were actually asking. So this is a whole episode pulled from all the questions that we've gotten and all the pushback that we've gotten over the last 2 months of these identity series.
Yeah, for sure. And, you know, this one's going to feel a little different for our listeners, for our viewers. It's going to feel, a little different. But I think in a real sense, it might be one of the most important episodes of the whole series, because, man, we get to not only bring it all together, and we'll scratch at that, but as you just said, to get the feedback, to hear what people are thinking and have an opportunity to engage with that. That's why we tell them all the time, leave a review, leave a
Yes.
question, leave a
Do it.
comment, so
Yeah.
that this can be a dialogue and we can have this interactive piece. So let's go.
Let's do it. Let's dive in. So let's start with the question we heard more than any other question. And it was in different forms and it came from different people. It was some version of this. Hey guys, this all sounds great in theory, but what does it look like when both people are exhausted, both people are living in their shadows, and neither one is operating from their design? What do you do then? Good question, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you that question hit me a certain way because the answer here is going to be different than you're probably thinking, but most couples at some point, or most couples at all points, are living in that place. And that was us. That was me and Lisa at one point, right? I'm sure it's been you and Zena at some point, Henry, right? So
Yep.
you're both in a different place. How do you get out of it, right? How do you move forward?
Yeah, but the easy label and description of it that could apply is a broken marriage. But I don't want to reduce it to that. I
Yeah,
don't just want to view it as, describing it as a broken marriage, because this is lived experience. And what some would describe as a broken marriage, some people would say, no, that's just Tuesday. That's just,
right.
any,
Yeah, it's just
any
Tuesday
given day of the
behavior.
week. Tuesday
Yeah.
behavior. Yeah. We're picking up right where we left off the day before. So that's the reality.
So here's how we want to answer this question. Let's speak directly to these people as best we can. And I want to be clear, I'm not giving you marriage counseling right now. I'm giving you a framework for understanding what's happening when both people are in the shadow, right? When the Ezer is controlling and when the Zakar has gone passive, you're not having a design problem. The design is still there. You're in a survival loop, right? And the loop has to be interrupted before the design could re-enter the picture. If you were in front of me and I were coaching you, I would say it's a pattern of behavior. It's a pattern that must be identified. And here's the thing about patterns. Patterns have to be interrupted. If you want to get something different, when you're in a pattern, you have to interrupt the pattern. But
Yeah.
patterns don't get interrupted. They don't get interrupted by the person who's the most reactive, the person who's continually just taking it as it comes and reacting to the things around them. They get interrupted by the person who's willing to take action first, the person who's willing to move first. The most basic, for instance, I could give you is, if I'm in a pattern of laying down cards, and the cards go in a color pattern, right? Red, yellow, blue, red, yellow, blue. Every time you lay down a yellow, I lay down a blue. And every time I lay down a blue, you lay down a red. And we keep going in this pattern. And then somebody says, here's purple.
Yeah.
What? I don't know what to do with
Yeah.
purple, right? So you have to interrupt the pattern, right? And the key here, what I just said is the key. The person who interrupts the pattern has got to be the one who's willing to move first, not the person who wants to be the most right, but the person who's willing to move first.
Yeah, yeah. And that's uncomfortable to say out loud, because the person who moves first feels like they're losing in so many instances. And that, I remember, and I don't want to take you off into a tangent, but I remember
Go tangent
you
away,
did
my friend.
this you did this thing of the crazy eight,
Yeah.
of the crazy eight. I remember you did that. I saw you do it live, but it's somebody has to break the pattern.
Yes.
Because and it doesn't mean you're losing. I often would say this about my relationship. I don't just want it to look right. I want it to be right.
Yeah.
And it looking right may mean behind the scenes, we're in this loop, we're in this pattern, but out front, we put forth this persona in this picture that, oh, it's great, it's good. We're more concerned with it looking right than it being right.
Yes.
And I believe the person who's willing to move first, they're not losing, but they're doing what needs to be done.
Yeah, that's good, man. Moving first is definitely not losing. That's the lie we end up adopting over time, that, I don't want to be the one who makes the first move because then I lose. Moving first is taking initiative. That's
Yeah.
what it is in a relationship. To the men, I might say, it's what remember and act accordingly looks like. It's what Zakar looks like when the relationship is stuck. I'm going to lean on you. If I were coaching you as a couple, I would be leaning on you, men, because it's what I want you to do. I want you to take the initiative to stand up for what's right in the relationship. Remember, serve, support, sacrifice, and stand. Sacrifice and stand go together in this one, right? Sacrifice your ego and stand for what's right in your relationship by interrupting the pattern. Remember who you were designed to be. Act from that. Don't act from how you feel in the moment, right? Lisa and I have had many seasons where that's the only thing that broke the loop, not a conversation and not a getaway breakthrough weekend, or one of us just decided to stop performing shadow and start functioning from our design, and we interrupted the pattern. Most of the time, honestly, it was her first.
And it's amazing, dude. We talk about our marriages and talk about our relationships and how, you know, what I've said down through the years when working with couples, coaching them, and particularly when Zena and I have done it together, sometimes they think that the two females are going to be on the same page and see it the same way, and then the two men are going to see it the same way and be on the same page. And what we found sometimes is that it's Zena identifies with him, I see exactly what she's saying, and so when you said that, usually it's Lisa who will move first. I be pushing Zena to move first, but that doesn't always happen that way, So,
Well,
but
yeah.
seriously, the practical answer to all of this is what we really just have to address. What do you do when you both are stuck? Somebody has to move, and it probably needs to literally be you.
Yeah, you got that right, man. Personal responsibility is the way to move this thing forward, right? Somebody moves. Doesn't have to be a grand gesture, like I said, just needs to be a pattern-breaking moment. One moment of serving instead of scorekeeping, one moment of supporting instead of controlling, one moment of standing instead of hiding. Design is just, re-encountered one function at a time, right? It's the redemption of the relationship one function at a time. That's a good way to start this off, man. Good first question.
It is. And I want to posit this to close out this first question. I often, in working with couples, I try to come to a consensus about what do we mean when we say love, and the definition of love that I most often offer them is this: love is doing what needs to be done in a spirit of self-sacrifice, and you're doing it because it's in the best interest of the relationship and the other person.
So good, man. The spirit of self-sacrifice. What a great way to put that. I know that boy, we will get into the weeds now, Henry. You're going to put everybody into the Hebrew weeds again. But we have such a limited expression of love in English. We only have one word for it. Both Hebrew and Greek have multiple words for love. We don't have time to get into all of that, but I will say this. The functioning definition of the Hebrew word for love that's used in relationship to God in the scripture means benevolence on behalf of another at cost to myself. And you just described it so perfectly, man. The self-sacrificing posture we take so that the relationship can benefit, so that others can benefit from what I'm giving. Beautiful definition of love, my friend. Beautiful. We're going to have to address that, I think, for our audience now. We just said there's a bunch of different words for love. We're going to end up just teaching Hebrew as coaches. All right. Anyway, let's get to question two.
We'll get the question too. We'll just have a Hebrew segment in our episodes.
But we probably will.
Listen, we have to talk about the elephant in the room. I believe we pointed to the elephant 8 weeks ago, but I think we need to talk about the elephant in the room. And I want to say, I get it. I genuinely get it, because some people heard us talking about feminine identity and their first reaction was, who do these guys think they are?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's fair. It's a fair reaction. And we knew it was coming, which is why we addressed it in episode 1 of She Was Built for This. It deserves a real answer. We won't defend it, right? It needs a real answer, and it's a real reaction. Why are two men teaching women about their design was actually how it was posited to me. So let's start with the truth, right? I'm not, and we are not, right, the most credible voices on what it feels like to be a woman. Surprise, everybody. And by the way, we never claimed to be. What we are is, we are people who have spent decades studying what's around on the planet, and the oldest text that we know of that we've been influenced by, which is the Hebrew Scriptures. And it speaks specifically about how women were designed. And then we put that into a framework for you, and we watched it come alive in the people that we know. Our daughters, our sisters, our wives, our moms. We've watched it come alive in the women that we've been married to, right? So, I mean, I guess we didn't write. I didn't. A lot of this material is mine, so I'll own it. I won't rope Henry into it. I didn't write this series to explain women to themselves. Let's get that on the record.
Right.
I didn't write this series to explain women to themselves. That would be pretty arrogant. I wrote it because I didn't understand the women in my life. And I wrote it because the men around me probably don't understand the women in their lives. And I think that's costing everybody something in their relationships. The primary audience for She Was Built for This are men who love women.
Yeah.
That's it. Husbands, fathers, brothers, leaders, men who have spent their whole lives benefiting from the functions of the Ezer without ever having language for it.
Man, that's so true. The scripture that comes to mind as you laid that out was this: in all of your getting, get understanding.
Yeah.
And as you said, the primary audience. And when we think about the women who listened, tackle this. What was the response for them?
From the women?
Or rather from them. Yeah. What was the response from them?
I mean, most of the response we got from women was pretty positive. I mean, some of the really moving feedback came from them. Of course it should, right? I mean, they're much more in touch with their emotions than the guys who were responding. I heard from one woman who said, "I've been told my whole life that I'm too much. And you just told me I was built this way. And I thank you for that." The too much. I think a lot of women echoed that they felt like they were too much. I heard from women who cried when they heard the framework. Some of them couldn't explain why. I think it's just echoing something in their soul that's already there, but no one's ever said it, particularly not a man. So they found it powerful that it was men sharing it, not women. Now, does that mean we got everything right? No. I mean, I'll never bank 100% on anything we say. Remember that, everybody.
Right.
Because we're always learning, man. The person that we are now is not the person we were 10, 20 years ago. But does it mean that a woman's voice should be in this conversation? Yeah, probably. I mean, absolutely. We're going to have women on the show moving forward. We're going to have some reactions from women.
Yeah.
It's something we want to act on moving forward. But we're not going to apologize, and I'm not personally going to apologize for studying something deeply and then sharing with you what I found. That's what teachers do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we would be doing our audience a disservice if we didn't do that. What we studied, what we found, and bringing that to them. And what I'll add to that is this: from my perspective as someone who came into this as a learner, it is, this framework doesn't cage women. I want to say that again. It doesn't cage them.
Yeah.
It liberates them.
Yeah.
And that's what, Jay, as we went through this in the first 4 weeks, that's what my prayer was, that was my hope, that they would see the liberation in it. At least that's what I watched happen in, my own relationships when I started seeing the Ezer function as a design rather than a demand, and functioning out of that and from that place.
That's good. And since we're having a day where we're reminded of other parts of Scripture that are echoing what we're saying, I would say where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's
liberty.
Freedom, liberty.
Yep.
Yes, liberation is the goal. And honestly, the Scripture always works when you go to the original language, everybody. Just remember that that's what we're really communicating here. Underneath the subtext of everything is down there. Okay, question number 3, and it's a weird one. And if you're not a theologian, or if you're not a person who grew up around these terms, you might not even understand this question, but it went something like, hey man, isn't this just complementarianism with better branding? Okay.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, that's a word? Yeah, it is a word. So I'll do my best to address it directly. I mean, Henry's got seminary in his background as well, so we'll do our best to address the theological clarification of this question. Okay, it's a weird word, right? Basically, complementarianism is the idea posited by Christianity in some denominations, some sects, right? SECTS.
Spell it, please.
Right. Yes. Spell it, please. That we're all in traditional gender roles, and traditional meaning men are the head of the household. They're the leaders. They take the leadership roles in churches. That women are not leaders, that they are, subjugated by men, or they're subordinate to men, better word. So that's what complementarianism generally means. I'm sure it means more than that when we get down to it. It's kind of the echoes of what people are talking about traditional roles. It's actually what the manosphere is talking about. They want women to be, having babies, and they want them to be supportive, but they want them to run in the background and not be in the front. So the bottom line here, the short answer is this just complementarianism with better branding? The short answer is absolutely not. No. But maybe we'll get into an explanation here a little bit further.
Well, it's not, but from the outside, it could sound similar. That's just the issue.
Yeah, you're right. And I mean, so here's the distinction, to be precise, right? Traditional complementarianism is built on a hierarchy. It's the idea that male authority is built into the design of the relationship. It's baked in. That the man leads, the woman supports, and that the leadership of the man is his primary function, right? And that she's supposed to support his leadership. The Ezer Zakar framework that we gave you is built on design diversity, not hierarchy. It's opposite of that. The Ezer doesn't exist to support the Zakar, and the Zakar doesn't rank above the Ezer. They are two different expressions of image bearing that were created to function together. Let me say that twice. Ezer Zakar are different expressions of God created to function together. They're not in a chain of command. They're not in a hierarchy. They're in a partnership, and they have distinct strengths from one another. If you want a visual picture in your mind, I'm sure everyone has seen a picture of the yin-yang symbol in Asian culture, right? The yin-yang. So it's more like that. There is no hierarchy. It's a completion of two opposite things, but not completely opposite, right? So the Ezer Kenegdo doesn't mean helper subordinate to the man. It means strength corresponding to him. Corresponding strength, not subordinate strength, right? The word Ezer is used elsewhere, as we mentioned before, in all throughout the Hebrew scriptures to describe God. Nobody's arguing that God is subordinate, right?
For sure.
So when we say women were designed to protect, provide, complement, and guide, I'm not saying that those things are in service of a male hierarchy. I'm saying those are the ways that their strength moves through the world. Toward children, toward communities, toward the men in their lives, yes, but not only toward the men in their lives, right? But not beneath them. They're never beneath them.
Yeah, yeah, that's powerful, man. And honestly, that's the clearest I've ever heard you say it. And what resonated with me was that one line when you talked about it's not a chain of command. That just makes
Right.
it clear.
Yeah.
Powerful, powerful.
Yeah. I'm glad that it's clear. I mean, I should have been more clear 8 weeks ago. Sorry, everybody. So consider this a clarification. All right. That was a good question. Let's go to question number 4, my friend. What's question number 4?
Question number 4. Now we got a lot of honest feedback from people who felt like this series wasn't for them. This series just wasn't for them. I often say when I'm preaching and in a church setting that I used to hear older preachers say, you know, if you don't think you need this, just keep living. Just you don't think you need
Yeah.
this sermon today, just keep living at some
Right.
point. But they felt as though this series wasn't for them. People who are single, people who are divorced, people who they don't fit the married couple model that most of our illustrations assume. We talked about the romantic relationship in so many facets. And I want to sit with that for a second before we respond, because, I felt that when I felt that question with people not feeling as though it was for them.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, it's real. I mean, the truth is, when you're teaching, it's hard to envelop everyone in the relevancy categories when you're trying to teach something through frameworks, and you're trying to hit like the majority of people the best you can. We spent 8 episodes exploring identity through the lens of 2 ancient Hebrew words that are rooted in that relationship, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the illustrations are going to lean toward relational context and those words that most obviously apply to that relationship. But for the Ezer and Zakar, in the Genesis story, it's traditionally where we find the marriage relationship, right? So here's what I want to say to the person who heard this and thought, that's not my life, dude. That's not my life. It doesn't relate to me. It doesn't make sense. The functions of the Ezer, protect, provide, complement, and guide, they aren't functions that happen in marriage. They're identity functions.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, a single woman who protects the people in her community is operating from the identity of Ezer, the design that she's made to live from. A divorced man who sacrifices his own comfort to show up for his kids is operating from Zakar design, right?
Mm-hmm.
From that identity. A woman who's never been married and builds something that changes lives is functioning from the fullness of her design to enhance and beautify the world around her. The framework doesn't require a partner to activate it. It just requires a person who knows who they are, their identity.
Man, and I think we, undersaid that in the series, and I'm glad that we're saying it right now. While you were explaining that, 2 words came to mind, pre and post. You know, premarital. So for those who are single, this is not for me. No, trust me, this is for you.
Yeah.
Trust me
Yeah.
on this one.
Things
This
we wish
is
we
for
had known.
you. And exactly. And then even from a post standpoint, the person who is divorced or what have you, I think before jumping into the next relationship, you ought to do an autopsy of the previous relationship. And this language literally helps you do that, to look at what didn't work, what was missing, or again, not functioning according to design, so that you are better prepared for the next relationship. I mean, I don't have the statistics in front of me. Maybe you can speak to this. When you talk about a second marriage, the likelihood of the second marriage lasting, those numbers drop considerably when you talk about the second marriage. But I think by and large is because we go into the second one not having done anything differently than, or not with a different understanding in the
Yes.
language than we did from the first one. That makes sense?
Makes perfect sense. And that's literally the reason why second marriages, third marriages fail at higher rates, because we don't change anything we've done. We don't examine our belief systems, and we don't look at our identities, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I can own this one for the people who asked it, right? If you're single and this framework made you feel excluded, that was a failure of our illustrations, not a limitation of your design. So, I personally apologize for that. You are fully Ezer, fully Zakar. The person sitting next to you in a marriage does not complete your design. They bear witness to it. That is
Yeah.
all that's
Yeah.
happening. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, hey, question number 5. Now, this might be the one I feel most personally, to be
Okay.
honest with you, because we've heard from people, women mostly, who grew up in religious contexts where language almost identical to ours were used to diminish them. To keep them small, if you will, to tell them that their role was to serve and support, and here's the one, and stay quiet. And listen, they heard us talking about design, and they heard us talking about function and purpose, and their body tensed up because they've heard that before, and it didn't free them, it trapped them, it didn't serve them, it enslaved them.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. And we've both lived through listening to authority figures in the Christian church say those things from the pulpit, teach those things. They're a part of the culture. Even if they're not taught explicitly, they're taught implicitly, right?
Yeah.
Silently, it's passing in the culture. This is a timely question because, the Southern Baptist Convention just recently voted to exclude women from leadership roles in their churches in 2026. I mean, what? I mean, should be going the other way, gentlemen. Quite frankly, there's a few skeletons in the closet in the SBC. We're not going to air out that dirty laundry here on the podcast, but it's true that it's happening right in front of us. Even in the news, I wanted to bring that up because to the people who asked this question, the question that, hey, I've been hurt by this kind of language before, and I'm not sure you're really any different. I want to speak directly to that woman, to that person, to that soul. First, hey, I'm sorry. I apologize that the language that was supposed to honor who you are was used to diminish you instead. That is not a small thing. That's a wound. And if anybody's not going to take responsibility for it, I will. For all those authority figures who stood there from a stage and told you that you were less than, they were wrong. They were wrong. Let's start with that. Okay?
Yeah.
Second thing, you are right to be cautious. It's prudent to be cautious. You were right to listen with your guard up. Healthy skepticism in the face of new frameworks, new ideas that have hurt you in the past is not a weakness. It's wisdom. You were exercising wisdom. So recognize that in yourself. It's not a weakness to question something that's coming from from the same place where you've heard other things to lessen you and diminish you. That's just wisdom. So trust yourself, trust that feeling inside of you. And maybe a third thing to add would be the test of a framework. And this is where all of this comes from for me. The test of a framework isn't whether it sounds familiar. The test is what it does to you over time. I have not shared this publicly until I had it in my soul for years, and I was able to see it work and live in the lives of the people around me and in my own. Does it make you smaller? Does it make you larger? For me, this framework made me larger. It made the women in my life look larger and better. It empowered the people in my life to do better and live better and have more benefit in their lives and more power in their hands. What's another way to say it? Does it put you in a box? Does it put you in a cage? Or does it hand you a key? Does it give you freedom?
Right.
Does it liberate you?
Yeah.
I feel in my heart, in my soul, that the Ezer framework, the one we gave you, that's rooted in the real text of Hebrew, it hands you a key. It says you were designed in a fierce fashion. You were designed with strength. the protect function, the guide function, those aren't passive roles. Those are active expressions of power in your soul. If someone used language like this to make you subordinate, they misread the text. They misunderstood the assignment. They may even have weaponized it against you. And you do not have to carry that. We don't want you to carry that. We want you to be healed. We want you to feel free.
Yeah, yeah. Man, I'm thinking about years ago, there was a situation, someone came to me with a conversation, and I didn't have this language back then, but there was just something in me that knew something's off, something's wrong. And so what happened was there was a lady in a church that I grew up in and had started experiencing and recognizing what her purpose was and what God was impressing upon her to do in ministry and leadership. And she came to me and asked me about it. And I was really quite candid with her because I've known her for years. I said, "You thinking about doing what, where?" Because she because she was in that type of context.
Right.
That women weren't allowed to do certain things. They could only do certain things, so on and so forth. So what she was talking about doing, I'm thinking, no. So here's what I told her. And again, this is how I framed it then, even without this language. I said one or two things are going to happen. Either one, you're going to stay there and suppress all that you're feeling, suppress how you believe you should be functioning and flowing based upon what you're telling me, or you're going to leave. But, and I framed it that way because don't think that, and I knew the context. Again, I want to qualify this. Don't think that you're going to just change their minds overnight. It just wasn't going to happen. So I told her that you either going to suppress it or you're going to leave. And she left.
Yeah, well, I mean, but she left because she wanted to fulfill her purpose and she couldn't do it in that context.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're learning better right now how to create environments where women can be embraced in their purpose to guide, to lead, to be in ministry involved with all of us and help us guide us on this path and this journey of spirituality and of faith. I mean,
And watch this. 25 years later, 25 plus years removed, when I see her, if I had to put one label, one lower third word under her caption, it would be free. She just looks free. You know what I'm saying? There's a freedom. We just talked about it a moment ago. The freedom, the liberation. You can see it all over her, and she would have never arrived there in that other context. And so I applaud her for taking that step, for recognizing that, hey, can I say it? She was built for this.
Yeah, that's awesome. And everybody, look, before we move on from this question, we're not the last word on this. We're just one voice in a bigger conversation. And if this series started something for you, even if it started something uncomfortable, we'd rather you wrestle with it than dismiss it. Because the wrestling usually means something important is at stake. I know that's true in our lives, and we want it to be true for you. We didn't make this podcast just to say what everybody else was saying about personal development and personal growth and spiritual growth. We wanted to drop some new stuff at your feet and allow you to decide to pick it up and wrestle with it, look at it, kick the tires, if you will. You don't need to embrace everything we're saying at face value. We respect and expect you to see it for yourself so that you can implement it in your own life and use your critical thinking.
Okay, cool.
Yes,
cool.
sir.
So question six. It has everything to do with what the Zakar says, the remember the act, and maybe the question is remember what. So I want to ask you a question that I think a lot of men in our audience were sitting with after episode 1 in particular of the men series, what we just came out of, but maybe didn't have the language for. You said Zakar means remember and act accordingly. Remember and act accordingly. And that reoriented everything for me. But the question is, Jay, remember what? What is the man supposed to remember?
Okay, that's the question. It is a good question. It's the right question. And the answer has layers. I feel like I answered it pretty well, but I guess I didn't if I get in questions about it. So let's go with the layers of question. I'm going to be very plain. All right. First layer is remember your identity. Remember who you were created to be before the performance trap got to you. Before the world told you that you are what you produce, that you are what you earn, that you are what you achieve. Before you were a human doing, you were a human being. So Zakar is the art of returning to your original design. Okay, so that's the first layer of what you're made to remember and act on. Okay,
Identity. Okay.
Identity. The second layer, which we definitely didn't address, is covenant. There's a covenantal layer to the remembrance. So this would require a little Hebrew context. Zakar is almost always connected to covenant. And to summarize covenant, we'll just say it's a promise. Okay? For instance, God remembers his covenant with Noah and the covenant with Abraham and the covenant with Israel in other parts of the scripture. So the word carries the weight of loyalty to something you've committed to. So where a man is called to his functions in masculinity, right? To his Zakar design, he's being called to remember the commitments he's made to his wife, to his children, to the people under his care. Not as an obligation, not as a duty, but as your identity. Okay, that's a little deeper than we went on the episodes for sure. So remember your identity. Remember the covenant that's attached to your identity, the promises and the loyalty that's necessary and the commitments that you made. And the third layer is the God layer. Remember God. At its root, Zakar is about a man who has enough of a conscious relationship with his creator that he can locate himself in the story. He can locate himself in the way that things are going. He knows what he's for. He knows where he came from. And then from that place, he can act accordingly. You are not God, gentlemen. You are a piece of God. You are an image and expression of God, but you are not God. And that's an important distinction that you need to remember about yourself when you're acting accordingly. Remember, as the earth supports the foundation supports the woman or the house, right? That's how this works.
Yeah. And I like that because it's not a list of behaviors. It's a return to source. And I always like when you frame it that way. It's a return to source.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, we just had the father episode. So source, it's father, right, in Hebrew. That's why you can't just be handing somebody a list of behaviors and expect transformation, right? You have to help them remember something first. And that's what the series was trying to do for both women and men. It's also why the shadow expressions make sense, man, because when you lose the thread of who you are, when a guy forgets that the Zakar functions don't disappear, man, they distort. Right? Serve becomes passivity. Support becomes control. Sacrifice becomes blame. Stand becomes pride. Remembering is the cue, right, for every one of those. I would say it's like the cue to come back to yourself, but maybe there's a better way to say it. Remembering is like healing. It's the cure, right? It's the remedy for every one of the distortions that you might be exhibiting. So remember, again, 3 layers: identity, covenant, and your place in the story. You are not God, right? And you need to act accordingly for that reference. Yes? Did that answer it?
No, that answered it. That answered 100%. Now, I didn't send my question in. I didn't send this question in, but I want to ask you something.
Okay.
I want to ask you something that, I've been sitting with since we finished the men's series. We spent 8 weeks teaching these 2 frameworks. completely and separately.
Yes, sir.
Ezer over here, Zakar over here. But what does it actually look like when they operate together? Not in theory, like I'm gonna get you a digital whiteboard at some point.
We're gonna have to have
But
one pretty soon.
give me a picture, give me a mental picture. What does it look like for them to operate together?
That's a good question. And it's probably, I'm sure it's a question that's been on people's minds as they've been listening, if they've been paying attention. And it's a really good question, my friend. So let's give you a picture. I'll give you the picture that I use when I'm working with couples. When I'm working with couples, I use this work. And you might be thinking, oh, what do they think about this? Well, I think it's the clearest way that I've found to make this concrete for them is to give them a word picture first, and then I work my way backwards to the identities, right? So first, I want you to do this. I want you to think about a house. Think about a house. Don't think about the architecture of it. Think about the experience of it. Okay? Have you ever walked into one of those homes and something just feels different? Right? There's like a settledness to the air. There's a warmth about the decor. You can't like always name it, but you feel it, like you feel it in here. The kids who grew up there carry that energy with them. The guests who visit want to come back to the home. You ever visited a house like that? That quality doesn't happen by accident. And it doesn't come from either person in the marriage alone. It doesn't come from either person in the partnership alone. Are you with me so far?
Yeah, yeah. So if I'm hearing you correctly,
Mm-hmm.
it's what's being built.
Yes.
So what's being built? Walk through that.
Okay, I'll do my best. The Zakar, okay, the man functioning in his design, serve, support, sacrifice, stand. He's the foundation of this house. He's the foundation of the home. Not the walls, not the roof. Definitely not the roof, everybody. There's no hierarchy to this relationship. Do you hear me? Okay, I'll say it one more time. He's the foundation. The concrete, it functions below the surface, the thing nobody sees, but everything else rests on. Okay? What does the foundation provide to the rest of the house? It provides constant and never-ending reassurance. Feel me on this. Constant, never-ending reassurance and support. You don't think about your foundation every day. You don't notice it when it's doing its job. But the moment it shifts, the moment something happens, then everything in the house shifts. Right? So a man who's operating from his identity is providing that same kind of steady, underneath everything reassurance to everyone in his household. His presence is saying, I will hold. This will hold. We've got this.
Okay.
Are you with
All
me?
right. I'm with you.
Okay.
So that's the man.
That's the man's part, yes, of the home.
Part.
Foundation.
What about the Ezer?
What about the women's part, the Ezer, the feminine identity? Okay, so the Ezer, the woman functioning in her design, right? Protect, provide, complement, and guide. That's the framework. The structure that rises from the foundation. She's the framework of everything that happens above ground. The walls, the shape, the rooms. She determines the interior experience of the home. She defines how the space is used, what feels alive, what the emotional architecture of that household is. Are you with me?
Yeah.
And what does a framework need from the foundation, you ask? It needs to trust that the ground underneath is not going to move. It needs reliable reassurance so it can do its work without constantly checking whether the floor is still there.
Yeah.
Right? She needs to feel that she can rely on that foundation to not move and not shake and not quake and not bend or crack. Yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
And what does that foundation need from the framework? It simply needs to know that what it's holding up matters, that the structure above it is worth being solid for. So the woman provides that through consistent admiration, through seeing the man clearly and naming what she sees. Listen, ladies, if you're listening. Us guys will do an awful lot for an attaboy. Am I wrong, Henry?
You're right.
We'll do an awful lot for a pat on the back and an attaboy. You're doing a great job. Just someone noticing that we're doing it. Remember, most of the foundation's work is thankless work. It goes on underneath, right? What everyone else is doing. I'm there to be a reliable, solid support structure for everything above me. And it's really important that my partner looks at me occasionally, maybe more than occasionally for some of us, right? And says, hey, I see what you're doing. I admire that you're such a reliable, stable, loyal foundation, and I love you for that. Don't ever change. You know what I mean? Dude, we'll do it for another. We're good. Like, we're filling up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It reminds me of, I don't know if you've ever heard of Alison Armstrong. She's a relationship coach, researcher. She holds relationship seminars. She's quite fascinating, everybody, if you want to go look her up. But she would call this the woman's natural gift of appreciation. It's a natural gift that women hold, that feminine energy holds. It's the ability to recognize what's real in someone and then reflect it back to them at full value, right? Hey, that's you, and it's awesome. If you've never noticed it, I really wanted you to notice it.
Wow. And it's, you mentioned Allison, it reminds me of David Data's work on masculine and feminine energy.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, he views the feminine as radiance.
Yeah, David.
Yeah.
David spent years mapping the polarity between masculine and feminine energy. We will recommend his book, Intimate Communion, to everyone listening today. Intimate Communion. What a fascinating book about relationships, masculine and feminine energy. And he arrived at a very similar place to what the Hebrew text was saying 3,000 years ago, everybody. That masculine energy is direction and presence. It moves toward a mission. It holds steady. It creates the ground for things to grow. Does that not sound like Zakar to you?
Yeah.
And then he said, like, the feminine energy is radiance, like you said. It fills space. It responds. It brings life into what the masculine has stabilized. Man, how cool is that? What I love about David Data's work and Alison Armstrong's work is that they got to the framework of their own through decades of observational research into modern relationships. But when you put their work next to the framework we gave you from Hebrew scripture, from ancient wisdom, they're not contradicting each other. They're describing the same thing from completely different directions and completely different time frames. Ancient text being confirmed by modern research. That is not a coincidence, my friend.
I want to say forgive me for this. I really do. I really do. But all of what we just said in terms of the place of authority that they speak from, obviously researched and all of that. I don't know how much research this person went into how they frame it, and they framed it. But here's what they say. It's a man's world. I'm not a singer, y'all.
Yeah, give me a little James
But
Brown.
what kind would it be without a woman or a girl? Because again, it's understanding how they work together. So bringing it back to the house, when both people are operating in their design, that's the powerful dynamic in this, dude.
Yes. When both people are operating in their design, the foundation, the man, the masculine energy is steady. And the framework is alive. The framework, right? The woman, the feminine energy is alive. Something happens in that home that neither person can manufacture alone. Back to what I alluded to before, right? You feel it. The reason why I use this analogy is because someone literally came into our home, our first home, our first house, right? Now, we lived in an apartment, then we owned our first home. Now we're in our second home. But in our first home, Um, I'm forgetting how many years we had been there even, but it wasn't decorated like we wanted exactly because, we were broke. That happens. But, we were doing our best and we had created a space that we at least enjoyed, you know. We didn't have any kids yet. And we had some friends over for dinner. And their house is much larger than ours. So we were like, well, we don't have to come here. We can just go to a restaurant or whatever.
Right.
And they insisted on coming to see our home. So we were like, okay. So made dinner, got ready for them. They came in and they were in the house for, I don't know, a couple hours. We had dinner and then we were sitting on the couch and talking, conversing as you do. And right in the middle of this conversation, um, my friend's wife said, I love your home. There's something here. There's like an energy here. I don't want to leave. There's something you guys have created. And we looked at each other like, that's a weird conversation. You know what I mean? But it also affected us deeply spiritually because we were like, yeah, that's cool because we did that. You know what I mean? And several times that's been verified in our lifetimes, not just in our own home, but also when we've traveled together, we've been places, we've had people verify that in us too. Like, you two are special. You two are something different. There's something different here. So that's where this analogy comes from in my head, right? There's something that happens when you function in your designs together and that yin and yang and that foundation and that framework works together, right? Something happens. It creates this energy between us, right? The people who live there, the children who grow up there, the guests who walk through the door, they experience something that they can't fully articulate with words, but they just know something is different, So here's what I want you to understand. That difference is a product of the relationship when it functions in its design. It's the product of two people who know who they are. The house doesn't create the design creates the house.
That's good.
Right? The house doesn't create the design creates the house. The Ezer and the Zakar functions, they aren't made for each other by proximity or compatibility or chemistry. They're made for each other by architecture, by spiritual architecture. Two designs shaped by the same hand, image and expression of the same spirit, with corresponding gaps and corresponding strengths, placed together so that what one cannot supply, the other one can. What one cannot carry, the other one can. I mean, that's the vision the whole series has been building toward. There's no gender roles that we're talking about here, right? This is not a hierarchy. This is a home with a feeling and a vibe that extends beyond the generations that you live in.
I remember listening to a podcast and watching a podcast that Brene Brown was on. Brene, if you want to come on the Breakthrough Bros, we're here.
Yeah, we're here.
But she was talking about how even in her home with her husband, how they function together and what the expectations are. And again, it's not a hierarchy. And sometimes she's like, what you got today, or what you got this week? I got 20. I got a strong 20. And then the other person's like, I got you. I got the 80. You know what I'm saying? Right. It's not that, okay, no, I need to press you to be this or be here, be there. It's a togetherness.
Yeah.
And it's how both are functioning. And I love the way you put it. It's making the home. And I hate giving these analogies. Jeremy and I talk about music offline, and he brings up some artists that I've never heard of, but because we're brothers from another mother, he got the James Brown analogy.
Yes, sir.
Over his shoulder. I'm sure you can see the Stevie Wonder album cover there.
Yeah.
Luther Vandross.
Yes, sir.
A house is not a home if there's no one. And I think that resonates. It's not just the brick and mortar. It's not just what was built physically, but it's what's dwelling on the inside of it That is so powerful, man.
That's good, man. I took a lot of flack once with another preacher who I was sharing duties with for a married couple. So I was giving them premarital coaching, and he was supposed to be the minister at the wedding. And I took objection to, he gave me like an edited copy of what he was going to say at the ceremony. And I sent back a message that was like, you're defining roles in a marriage that don't have roles. I personally believe this to be true. I see marriage as a role-less relationship. These aren't roles we are talking about, everyone. These are identity structures. These are the design of who you were made to be. When we talk about roles commonly in our culture, we are talking about tasks, right? Like the masculine task is cutting the grass and barbecuing. And the feminine task is, the laundry and the dishes, and anything that happens over the stove. I mean,
Yeah.
this is ridiculous, truly,
Yeah.
right? I definitely clean bathrooms better than my wife does. And she definitely does laundry better than I do.
Yeah.
But when she's down and out, I can do the laundry, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I'm missing, she can clean the bathroom. There's like things you tend toward. You might have an affinity for things. You might enjoy some things more than your partner does. And that's good to find out. But the division of labor is not 50-50. It's just a list of things that need to get done, and you're both capable, and you can both do them, and they have nothing to do with masculine or feminine identity. I just wanted to throw that in there.
And it goes back to what I said. It's doing what needs to be done
Yes, sir.
in the spirit of self-sacrifice.
Such a good definition, man.
I love you. I love that's the expression, the demonstration, that's the display of my love for you in this relationship. I'm going to show up doing what needs to be done in a spirit of self-sacrifice because it's what's in our best interest. And also I'm doing it because I know it's in your best interest as well.
So good, everybody. All right, that's a wrap on our very first response episode, built from the questions that you were asking, built from the criticisms you had of us over these last 8 weeks. We appreciate all the feedback, all of the engagement. And believe me, we read every single comment. Make sure that you're continuing to send us good things, even crazy things, even critical things. We read them all. We appreciate them all. So let's move to your challenge, because even a response episode needs a challenge, everybody. And we want you to do this one with someone else, not just with yourself. Okay, so sit down with someone you trust. Your spouse, a close friend, a sibling, someone who knows you really well. And ask them these 2 questions. Question 1, which of the masculine or feminine functions, which of the Zakar or Ezer functions do you see most clearly in me when I'm at my best? Which of the Ezer or Zakar functions do you see most clearly in me when I'm at my best? That's question 1. And be prepared to be blown away, everybody, because normally we don't see these things in ourselves, and that's a good thing. It's good to ask. And then question number 2. Now, which one do you see me lose when I'm under stress? Which function do you see me clearly lose when I'm under stress?
Yeah.
Okay? 2 questions. Get together with someone who knows you really well. And then this is the hard part, everybody. Listen.
Yeah.
Just listen. Don't defend it. Don't explain it away. Just receive it. Just receive what they have to say. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, what does Zakar mean? Zakar means to remember and act accordingly. I gave you 3 layers today in the response episode, right? Remember and act accordingly. Ezer means fierce strength, fierce God-level strength in the service of the people around you. Yeah. Neither of those identities operates in isolation. You need someone who can see you clearly. Be sure to ask them. That's your challenge this week.
Man, I think that, what a way to end these wrapping up these 8 weeks, bringing it all together. Again, the Q&A episode that we're doing now, but just that challenge alone, as we challenge them every episode, but that challenge alone, that conversation, I believe that's going to be a conversation that people remember.
Dude, I agree with you. Hopefully a breakthrough conversation, right, my friend?
Yeah.
All right, everybody. 8 weeks ago, Henry and I stood in front of a microphone. Actually, we sat in front of one, but who's counting? And we were going to talk about feminine identity. 2 guys. And we meant it. And then we did it. And we did 4 more episodes on what it means to be a man who actually shows up. And I don't know where this series found you. I don't know if you came in curious or skeptical or wounded or hungry for something new, but I know this: if you've been listening to us and you're still listening to us, then something in you resonated with the idea that you were built on purpose.
Yeah.
Your design is not an accident, that the functions you carry, the Ezer functions, protect, provide, complement, and guide. The Zakar functions, serve, support, sacrifice, and stand. They are not limitations of you. They're the equipment you were given for the life you were made to live. You were built for more. You were built for this. Don't put that back on the shelf.
Yeah. Please don't, because this is the work. It doesn't stop at the 8th episode. No, it's what you do with this, because what you do with this will literally be the next chapter of your life, the next chapter of your relationship, that which you really aspire to have and yet be, and now you have the language for it.
Yeah, that's so good, man. And of course, hey, we're going to keep going. This isn't a swan song. There's way more to say. There's more to explore together here on the Breakthrough Bros, and we want to explore it with you. That's the truth.
Yeah. So listen, if this series actually stirred something in you, and I believe it did, it stirred something in us even as we have gone through it. Tell us about it. Leave the review. Send us a message. As you see today in this episode, we're answering questions. We're wrestling with the pushback and all that comes with it. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear what you just heard. And listen, I want you to subscribe. I often say it about 3-4 times throughout the episode, but subscribe. I'm going to tell you again, so just know. Or subscribe so you don't miss it. Because listen, I want you to hear what we're saying. It's not a mistake that you hear. I believe it's by design, and I know that it's helping you.
Yeah. And while you're subscribing to things, don't forget to head over to thebreakthroughbros.com and subscribe to the Breakthrough Brief. If you haven't done it already, what are you doing, everybody? Every week, we go deeper about what we talk about here on the episode in an email that I send straight to your inbox every Friday. It's a great way to take action. It's a great way to remind yourself of what you learned, and it's a great way to move forward. Yeah. Brother Henry, any last words here?
Yeah, to everyone who listened to all 8 weeks, from our hearts, thank you. You stayed, and that means something to us. And remember, your breakthrough, this is why we do this, your breakthrough is closer than you think. Now go and do something with it.
Yeah, man. We'll see you next time, everybody.